Welcome to the Theater of Others podcast. My name is Adam Marple, and I'm the co-artistic director of the Theater of Others. With the COVID-19 pandemic forcing a shutdown and reevaluation of space and gathering, we at the Theater of Others are thinking about what stories we need and how best we can share them. We believe space is psychology, and it informs the way in which an audience interacts and reacts to what is presented to them. We create uniquely theatrical events in bespoke sensory performance spaces crafted to encourage curiosity and grant the audience permission to commune with the play. Now that space has moved online, how can we encourage interaction and action amongst an audience virtually? The Theater of Others produces plays that both welcome and challenge the audience. We are committed to international collaboration and are a laboratory that helps artists grow through intensive study of their craft. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purpose of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task, and it requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? On the podcast today from Melbourne, Australia, are co-artistic directors Budi Miller and myself in Cairo, Egypt. This podcast contains explicit language.
Hi, Adam.
Hi, Budi.
How you going?
I'm doing well. How are you in Weehawken?
How do I look?
You look like a goth kid from the 90s.
You told me that I need to continue wearing hats.
Yeah,
So,
I thought you'd be wearing like Kangals the entire time, but all right, cool. A little abracadabra today. That's fine.
I am a magician. I like your batik shirt.
Thank you. Yes, remember I'm still trying to make these videos a little bit more colorful than the regular hoodie and baseball cap.
And I've got my Japanese. I've got my Japanese tee on for pizza. Look, it's a pizza shirt.
I love
And I have a
pizza.
pizza in the oven.
Oh, it's apropos.
Not to be confused with a bun in the oven. I have a pizza in the oven.
If only that was reality for all of us. We could just have pizzas in the oven, not buns in the oven. 8 billion people. We don't need more people, we need more pizzas.
We need more pizza. Pizza will end world hunger. It will give
Absolutely.
us world peace.
Mm-hmm.
It will bring people together because it's
Amen.
communal. It
Amen.
is feed the starving
Mm-hmm.
because it's delicious
It's
and
equality because
nutritious.
it's a circle. Yeah.
And it's a vegetable.
Right. According to the Food and Drug Administration, pizza is a vegetable. That's
The
true.
American Food and Drug Administration. We have to let our listeners know that.
Right.
So, what is the American Food and Drug Administration, Adam Marple?
What is it now, or what is it supposed to be? It's
Ooh, I hear shade in your voice.
of course it's shade. They made a pizza a vegetable. Yeah.
And why, pray tell, did they do that?
So that they could feed it to children in elementary schools and be in the pyramid, the food pyramid.
But
Tomato
it's-
sauce.
Well,
That's
because it has
really
tomato sauce, it's now a vegetable.
Yeah, exactly. Which French fries also count in that as a vegetable.
But aren't
Ranch
French fries
ranch dressing.
I was going to say, aren't French fries vegetables?
Yes, but you get 2 servings because you put ketchup on top of it, so you get your 2 servings of vegetables.
I think we need to change the topic because it's making me really, really sad about being where I am right now. And where am I, Adam Marple?
You're in Weehawken, New Jersey, the Garden State.
I'm in the Garden State, everyone.
Yeah, not to be confused
I'm
with the Empire
America.
State right next door. Jack thought that you were in
No.
New York. New York and New Jersey are not the same thing, Jack.
Well, that's because Jack is a filthy Australian bloke. You know, he talks with his mouth barely open to keep the flies from flying in his mouth.
Wow, why are you doing so much shade at Jack? He's so nice to us.
Was that shade of Jack?
That was horrible. Jack has a lovely mouth. Flies or no
Yes, he does.
flies.
Yes, he has a lovely mouth. He has beautiful, bouncy gazelle hair.
Yeah.
Even though he has flies between his teeth,
I don't know
because
anything
he's an
about this.
Australian boy.
I don't know anything about
He's
this.
we don't even think about it. We just accept it because fly in your teeth does not mean does not affect the quality of your character.
No, no. There are no
And
judgments here. This is a no judgment
Eric,
zone.
this is a no judgment zone. This is a safe place.
That's a lie. There's all kinds of judgments here. What are we talking about?
What?
We're some of the judgiest people.
Okay, give me an example. Give me one example, and then I'll let you have that. Give me
Okay.
one example.
I'll give you 160 examples.
Oh
Every
my God,
single.
are we at 160
I
episodes?
think we're at 162. I think. I don't know.
We're at 162 episodes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I know, right?
That's really amazing.
I know.
So you're saying that I'm a judgy bitch?
I'm saying we are judgy bitches.
True. Okay. So with that in mind,
Yeah.
tick box. With that in mind, what's the most recent judgy thing that you've done in Cairo?
Oof.
While I sip on my libation.
The most the judgiest thing I've done in Cairo recently, not
I'm sure you don't
involving.
have to think too far back.
No, I'm
Come
trying
on
to.
now.
No, I'm trying to differentiate because I do it so often. Not theater related because I'm in tech right now, so you can imagine. You can imagine my.
Theater related. We're a theater podcast.
Well, then every single process, every single part of the process of this tech, I have been judging humanity, education, culture, people, parents, everything. Every single part of it.
Why? Why, Adam? Why?
Why? Well, I mean, tech is a part of the entire rehearsal process. I'm taking this this low hanging fruit that you're giving me here. Um,
What? Are you saying that I'm giving you a low hanging fruit?
you are you give me a give me an underhand softball pitch up here for jumping into the topic. Yes.
Do you call that lobbying or lobbying? Were you lobbying or lobbying? Were you silent or were you silenced? Was it a lob or was it a lobe?
I'm judging you right now. I don't know what you're doing.
Are you judging me?
Only almost always, but that's why I love you so much.
That's true. That's why I have to come with a top hat. I can't, it's like
You have to
the
come
only thing I can
correct.
do is like you said, I had to come with hats. You
Yeah,
told me,
yeah,
what happened to your hat? Last time
yeah.
I saw you, you said, what happened to your hat? I'm like, what do you mean, what happened to my hat? You said, you wear hats. And I'm like, yeah, I wear hats, but I'm not wearing a hat. He said, you're not wearing a hat. I said, yes, I'm not wearing a hat.
Yeah, you got to come correct.
So now I have got a nice, beautiful top hat, a little one. Singular sensation, every little step she takes. One. So, what are we talking about today, Adam, with your low hanging fruit?
We're talking about
Every time I
rehearsal
hear that
culture.
phrase, by the way, when I hear low hanging fruit, I think balls. Every
Of
time.
course
I
you
don't
do.
know about you. I don't know about you. I don't know about you listeners, but every time I hear someone say, well, I'm going to grab that low hanging fruit, I always think somebody's reaching for my balls. Just saying. Anyway,
We're talking about rehearsal culture. we're talking about we're talking about this thing that we all are involved in, but is very different wherever you are in the world, and what it means to go to someplace different and expect your rehearsal culture to be the same as their rehearsal culture, and what does it mean to adapt to each other in that respect.
ooh, that sounds like. Are you sure you want to talk about this today, Adam?
Yes. Yeah. Why?
Because I feel like you're going to get triggered.
Not at all. No, 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 no. I mean, there's a part of the process of we are Western American trained theater people that are doing our work not in the place where we were trained and brought up in a theater culture of that. So, do we bring what we have to wherever we are at, expecting them to adapt to us? Or do we adapt to their
You
rehearsal
mean
culture?
colonize?
Or is there a hybridity between the two of something new is created? That's what I'm talking about.
So instead of saying hybridity, can we say intersection?
Sure.
Because the word hybrid has an etymological pejorativeness to it. Because hybrid comes from mule, which comes from the word mule came from
Mongrel.
where they were right. Thank you. So let's say intersection.
Sure.
This light that I have makes me feel very theatrical. I feel like I have a spotlight on me.
Well, you also are wearing a top hat as well. So, I don't know what else you could do to be more theatrical in this moment. Sequins? A feather boa? I'm sure Chan has something
Oh
like that in the house.
yeah, that sounds really good. I'll wear sequins next time and a feather
Okay.
boa. That sounds
Awesome.
perfect. Okay, so we're gonna use intersection. The word intersection. Where do we have an intersection of where both worlds can come together and meet?
Yes. Yes.
What do you say, Adam? And what are you currently doing? Is this what happening? Is because you are in a rehearsal process? This is why I'm like I don't want to trigger you.
No, it's
Mind
fine.
you, I firmly believe that the people that are responsible for their triggers are the people who have them. But
Yes.
I want to take care of you and make sure that we're not going to get too triggered in here.
No. I'm going to talk about past rehearsal processes because we have obviously learned over the years. We have learned over the years different ways of working, and then I will try to apply it to my own rehearsal process going forward.
Okay, so with that in mind, what do you have to say? What is your point of view about this international rehearsal process?
Well, I think we have to start with obviously where we're both influenced from, which is Bali, right? Like we're both
Hmm.
obviously you, and then you brought me to that, which influenced me, and then that influenced
Very much
our
so.
rehearsal process. So, can you talk
Yes.
about the rehearsal process in Bali? And obviously, we're talking about the Balinese arts specifically, not a Western play brought to Bali in a rehearsal process. So, they are they are raised and trained from a very young age in a very specific process that then continues. Can you talk about that and how we're informed by that as well?
Well, I think the concept of rehearsal process is already a um, mistranslation because it's not about rehearsal necessarily, other than training. Like the in Bali, you're training. You're training to dance for the gods, and when it's time to dance for the gods, you dance for the gods. So you're training to get better and better at your skills to dance for the gods. In general, that's how I would put it.
Yeah.
Now, because of the international influence and intercultural exchanges that have happened between Western artists with the Balinese, the concept of rehearsal gets embedded inside of for performances, but not in the way that we would do theaters, say in the West,
Mhm.
in the sense that like we're performing for a particular um, aesthetic outcome in the West, and I say we just because that's where we're from.
Yeah.
That's not something. It's not the way that my particular perspective on making art comes from
Same. Yeah.
anymore. Really,
Yeah.
just because essentially the foundation of my training comes out of Bali.
Yeah.
That's where I really feel that what I do and how I work it's affected by the BPAT, the Balinese Performing Arts Training,
Yeah.
which is a term that I have created out of my research. Just because there's a very particular way in which they train artists' bodies, their voices, their imaginations, and whatever particular form that they're working with, whether it be gamelan, dancing, mask making, painting, wayang kulit puppetry, catch-up uh, performance. They all have their own particular forms that they work with, but the concepts are the same. And the key is being able to manage your energy. And that's whether the energy is karas, which is strong, or manis, which is soft, within the form that you're working in. And the only way that you can really understand that is through training those skills in the body and allowing the master to transfer the knowledge of each particular form. Like you were saying, the Balinese um, dancers in the old days, and it still happens where the children stand on the feet of the dancer, and the dancer manipulates the arms to the right gestures. That still happens, and you can see a lot of examples of that on Instagram. There's an Instagram that I follow that there's a
Yeah.
Balinese woman that trains
You post a lot. Yeah. I
young
love those.
dancers. Yeah, she's fierce. She's
Yeah.
fierce, and she's doing the music and she's doing the dance with them, and she's like pop 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 pop, and that's really how the knowledge gets transferred. So but then you start dealing with this whole Western concept of touch and giving permission for touch. That actually doesn't exist in the cultural form. Touch is already a given, because you are transferring the muscular information from your muscle memory to their muscle memory over and over again, because they don't work with mirrors in
Mm,
general.
hmm.
You'll get mirrors in, like, if you go to EC, which is the art school in Bali, which is where it's like their Juilliard. It's where you learn all of the traditional forms, but with the master teachers, and get the history inside of it, and become a teacher and performer yourself. And they do have mirrors in their dance spaces. But in general, when you're in the village and you're at the master's house, the only way that they can give you that information is through touch, and through manipulating your limbs. And then also they see it all the time. And I think that's another part of the process, where when you're working with forms, these types of, and I call them traditional forms, but when I say traditional forms, I don't want you to go into an idea that yes, they are forms that are old, but they are highly contemporary and within the aesthetic values of the culture. For example, the dance forms, they're constantly being choreographed by individual houses and companies and dancers doing their own style and their own form of a particular dance. And that's one of the reasons why the Balinese arts maintains its resilience, because and even arts in Asia in general retain their resilience, is because they have to be contemporary to maintain their relevancy in the culture, just
Yeah.
like in any other culture. But because Westerners go to the East, and if it's their first time, and they don't understand the aesthetic, they may project their ideas that this may be a traditional form, and that because it's a traditional form, it's an old ancient art that can't be negotiated with a contemporary idea. A lot of the Balinese artists are really contemporary artists and intercultural collaborative artists. They love collaborating with other cultures, and integrating the different cultures inside of a performance aesthetic. The culture itself does a lot of that kind of integration where, the religion is known for all the different influences that have met it throughout the years of it living in Bali. So the Balinese Hinduism tells the same stories as India, but it has a different cultural framing in the way they tell it. So they have Chinese coins and Balinese dance um, and they have Javanese characters, and so it's got it's so it's in, the Balinese are known for how they're able to integrate knowledge with the existing animism of the culture, which is one of the reasons why people feel so welcome there because the Balinese receive you as you are and find ways for you to have space in their on their island.
So can
And I think
we
that's
can we I want to pick up on this before you go deeper, much deeper. I know you can go for deep as a well on this, but I want to talk about you immediately went to training. A rehearsal doesn't exist in Balinese culture as we know it. Training exists. Should we be rethinking this word then? I mean, we're always talking about etymology in this podcast and as the company, what the audience means and what we actually want the audience to be. Should we be rethinking this word rehearsal as well? Because rehearsal is to rehear. In French, it's répétition, repeating. In German, it's probing. I mean, there are different words and they have a different kind of way of us thinking about how we go and do this, but when we think of rehearsal, we think, oh right, I'll show up at 6 p.m. and we'll do a couple of notes, and then there'll be a scene that happens over there, and there's a table behind the director made of a stage man. Like there's an idea of what rehearsal is. That's what I'm talking about. Is like rethinking what that process should be versus every single quote unquote rehearsal is actually just extended training inside of a
well,
play.
I think it depends. Look, the theater of others. Yes, we can definitely change the word and say we don't rehearse, we train, and then the audience gets to see the work in the process of the training. But I think and if you were to adapt it into the professional sphere, especially a Western ideology, you've got a lot of egos that you've got to work through before you can even begin rehearsing. Because especially if it's a paid performance and it's an equity performance and you've got a certain amount of time to be able to put the show up and the show has to look a certain way and certain to be it's already got its own cultural aesthetic.
Sure.
And I think if you want to for yourself as an artist to say I'm 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 training myself into the cultural aesthetic of what this production requires, you can do that. But I really don't think that we live in a world that is even open to the idea of calling rehearsal training because it's also a dirty word in so many spaces in the American. So I'm speaking American at the moment,
Yeah.
in the American community because people come from different types of training and people have been hurt by certain trainings and people feel really strongly about a certain way of working. So I think what it feels like when you hear the word training inside of a rehearsal process is that it feels like it's almost un-American in the sense of like I have my own individual autonomy and how I enter into this work is how I enter this work, and I will accept what this project is asking me to do, and accept the culture of what this project is asking me to do. But I have a way of working, and I have to do my way of working in order to find a way into the way you're working. But then if I hear training, that means that I've got to put aside the way that I work and what has brought me into this job and what I'm known for in my work. There's just so many layers, and the professional contract doesn't give you time for that.
So then, good. So this is what I wanted to transition into. So an international artist comes to work with a different group of people from a different culture.
Hmm.
So an American goes to Thailand, or
Hmm.
a Singaporean director goes to Germany.
Hmm.
do they bring their rehearsal culture into that room? Do they adapt to the way that the Germans work, thereby their process, their artistry is not the same? Or is there that intersectionality that happens that we're talking about? And what does that look like? And how does that happen in a short process? I mean, when we're talking about the American process, we're talking about a very short process, which doesn't necessarily exist in ways in the rest of the world.
Well, I think you have to deal who's. I mean, you have to look at the power structures of the room. Like, who's in charge at the time of the rehearsal process? Who's in charge at the time of the production, the length of the production from rehearsal to performance? So if you are a director, um, I would assume that you'd have your own process that you're going to bring into the room. But with that, if you haven't had control over your casting, you should be aware of that you have a particular directing aesthetic that you want to have in the space. That's how you cast. That the actors know that your process is a rehearsal process as opposed to you bring what you're supposed to bring, and I'm going to tell you where to go, and I'm expecting you to bring you what I'm paying you for, which is the acting. Because I think often what happens is with actors, we it we know how to do our work, and in general, we don't need someone to teach us what an action is or what an objective is.
Sure.
And if we're going into a rehearsal process where a director feels that they have to teach us how to perform an objective, then that's going to be a battleground.
Sure. But for instance, say I introduce viewpoints in my rehearsal.
Hmm.
Same argument.
Well, how are you introducing it?
I'm introducing it as training, as ensemble training, as the ability to for them to self-create in a different way, as a warm-up, all these things.
I think that's welcome. I'd welcome that because you use the word ensemble, and we as actors we want to be as close and as strongly um, relatable to each other as possible, because it's us that's going to be on the stage. So the quicker we can find a way into creating a common language as an ensemble, the better. But once again, it all depends on the project. If we're in a project that has someone that's top of the call sheet and has the permission to come and go as they want, that's one thing. But if it's a huge ensemble piece, it's another thing. Oftentimes when you're working with the older 20th century plays, it doesn't really allow ensemble training because you have actors coming and going, and some actors that only come to serve the story, and they only speak, you know, in the second act. you know, so I think it also depends on the design of the director. Does the director want everyone on stage with this particular play, right? So then the ensemble becomes, if it's a Van Hove work where everyone's on the stage and what was it? What was the one in the round in the circle? The one that we saw that was on Broadway. Oh, Van Hove, the one where they had the benches.
You're
I don't.
describing a lot of his shows. Subject matter,
The
topic,
Arthur
View from
Miller
the Bridge.
immigrant story, View from the
View
Bridge.
from the
Thank you.
Bridge.
Yeah. So and everyone was contributing to the full atmosphere of the intensity of the show. So I think being able to articulate why you're doing something at the top of a rehearsal process will get a stronger sign in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think the why needs to be clear,
Always.
because I know for a fact that if you're working with very seasoned actors that have 40, 50, 60 years on their belt, and you just randomly come in with an ensemble exercise, you're going to get, what does this kid want from me? What are they asking for? But if there's a clear why you're doing it, you get a much stronger commitment to what you're looking for. And if it is a training or creating a common language as a as an as a director with the actors, you need to be clear about that.
When someone like, say, and I know this is not a typical rehearsal process because he's not a typical artist, but when a person's like, say, Robert Wilson comes and works with artists from a different kind of quote unquote rehearsal or training culture, what is that like? He's obviously probably not adapting the way he works to the way that they work, and they're probably not adapting the way that they work to the way he works. So what is that what does that rehearsal, quote unquote rehearsal, look like? If you're thinking of Ilagaligo or something like
Well,
that.
I think what I love about Bob in a nutshell is that he appreciates the artist that he's working with. So it depends on, are you doing a Bob Wilson show or are you doing a collaborative show? Like, are you doing a Bob Wilson show? Like, are you doing his Peer Gynt? Or are you doing a collaborative show where he's working with Ariane Manouchkin? And then where does the collaboration happen? Is the collaboration happening with Philip Glass, or is the collaboration happening with the actor on the stage? In general, if you're the actor on the stage, you are creating pictures for what Robert Wilson is looking for the overall design of the shape of the stage. Um, if you are a jazz musician, you're coming in to collaborate with his images and your music. So I think the best way to put it is that he respects the taksu of the artist that he's working with, and to stay in your lane.
What about
And
someone's
then
like,
that's where the whole piece becomes um, the glorious things that they often do.
what about someone like, say, Kang Sen, Ong Kang Sen?
Kang Sin has a vision, and he's 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 a like a spy. Like he has you do lots of things, and you think you're going in one direction, and he pulls out the thing that makes it, like he pulls out the distilled quintessential thing that makes you great, and then he expands it, and then he puts it inside of the whole King Sane vision. It feels like you never know as an actor. I'm only speaking as an actor. I don't know how
Yeah.
to speak to Kingston as designer or um, in any other way.
Mm.
But as an actor, I always knew that I was an actor in the space in a respectful way.
Hmm.
So I never had to bring on anything other than what I was expected to do as an actor.
Yeah.
And I was expected to bring my best work every day. And when it was time to go, when it was time to go up, when it was time to work, it was time to go up, it was time to work. There was never any um, um, confusion around that. Kingston in the room and working is different than Kingston at the after party hanging out.
Sure. Sure.
And uh, the work environment was always very professional, intense, and supportive.
Mm.
And and honestly, like, it was fabulous. Like he made sure that, like, when we traveled Singapore Airlines, and we all had very good hotels, and we had realistic stipends and realistic uh, fees, and like when you have the privilege of working with a director that has a book that has a real budget, it's easier to not have any other stresses in your life to get in the way of what you're doing.
Mm.
And so with that, he also expects the best out of you.
Yeah.
And I think that he deserves it.
Sure.
If he treats you, especially if you're being treated like that, you deserve the best out of the artist.
Sure.
We've created space for you to be an artist. Now do your work. But I don't feel when it comes to like an intersectionality of my way of working, and it was Kang Sen's way of working. That's why I say that it's who holds the power in the space.
Mm.
And I was happy and I can't tell you how much of a relief it is for us actors to be in a space where a director knows what we're doing and
Mm.
that there's a clear vibrational control over the who has the power in the space and where the freedom lies, and that the freedom lies in the creative individuality. Then you can make all kinds of amazing things. But if an actor feels like the director doesn't know what they're doing and they're insecure, and and they're using these exercises to try to figure out how to gain power inside of the space, or how to create a language that they don't quite have in the space, it just goes flat.
It's interesting that you're describing the ideal rehearsal situation where there's a clear power structure and a clear power dynamic instead of
But the clear power dynamic could be it's equal in this space. We've gone horizontal. Like we're
mm,
all equals in this space.
okay.
But that's a
Thank you for
it's a clear dynamic.
okay.
Does
Okay.
that make
Thank you for
sense?
clarifying that.
Because
Yes.
like for example, when Brooke Andrew directed Gabon
I was going to ask about Brooke Andrew as well. Yeah.
and and Sydney, for example,
Hmm.
they're and it was interesting because the difference between Sydney and the Berlin was different, because Berlin really wanted that strong dynamic of I'm the director, you move this way, and this is it's my way or no way. And
Hmm.
Brooke Andrew as an artist, he doesn't function that way.
Mm.
So there was a challenge with getting the actors to understand, the artists to understand, because they were all weren't actors, we're all different kinds of artists, to understand that it's a collective finding the voice.
Hmm.
But in Sydney, it was really clear that the collective created its own communal voice, because Brooke was really clear about what the aesthetic was. I was the dramaturg, so I helped hold the aesthetic in that place, that everyone was an equal artist in the development of this world. There
Mm.
was a bigger vision, but within that bigger vision has the freedom and space for everyone to find where the work opens up and turns into everyone's specialty in the different arts that we bring to the work.
So, what is your, if you could create, and you do, what is your ideal rehearsal look like? I'm not talking about like, who you're working with, but I'm talking about like from the moment that it's announced to the moment you go home. What is that space in between feel like? How is it structured? How is the time used?
What's Yeah, but what's my role in this?
You're an actor.
Okay.
Let's let you be an actor in this moment. Only an actor, nothing else.
For
You don't have to do. You don't. There's no other.
for my ideal situation,
Yeah.
um, that I have more than 2 weeks,
Yes.
that I have a 7 week rehearsal process,
Okay.
um, and I have a director that I can trust, and the way that that trust is built is through the audition process and the decision of doing the job. Like I won't take a job if I can't trust the director. And for
Sure.
me, I'm in a place now where I just mm, choose the director I want to work with, and then I just show up as an actor. I do my job. I do my work. And then I fall into whatever the actor, whatever I actually, I like a director to know what the, okay, I want the director to know what the fuck they're doing.
Sure.
That's
Yes.
when
Yes, that's a given. That's a
that's
given.
my idea. That's my ideal situation. The director knows
Right.
what the fuck they're doing.
But what I'm asking for is a more granular, gritty. Like, okay, rehearsal starts at 6 p.m., 4 p.m., and then you arrive, and then what happens between the hours of 6 and
Okay.
6:30 or 6:30 and 7? Like, really get down to like what if we're building if rehearsal as we know it does not exist because we will always default to what we know. If we're trying to redefine what rehearsal, quote unquote, rehearsal is, what would be the ideal situation of a rehearsal?
That the call times are correct.
Okay. Yes.
So when the call time says we start this time, we start this time. When the call time says we finish at a certain time, we finish at that time. That the director has the time management skills to be able to start on time and finish on time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key is really finish on time. A
Sure.
lot of unseasoned directors will hold you there, because they feel they need to hold you there, and but actors have their own lives. Like they go to their job, they do their work, and they have to go in their other lives. It's like that. You as the director may be, you may you don't go to sleep, but we need to have sleep in order for us to, learn our lines. We need
Sure.
rest. We need proper rest.
Okay.
So
What
I
does
say
what does a start look like?
realistic call times.
Okay. You're talking equity rules now. I'm talking about the culture inside of the rehearsal itself. What does a start look like? What does when 6 o'clock is the start time and 6 o'clock the director says, okay, and then what happens next?
God, this is such a relative question because it depends on the. Okay, okay.
I'm talking
If
about an
ideal,
ideal. Yeah.
ideal would be that we have an ensemble check-in,
Okay.
whatever that means, but it's a place where we all end up energetically coming into the right space, the same space, and that there is, because I actually like, if the once again, it has to do with the person that's in charge, because if the person that's in charge doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and they have me doing some acting
This is an ideal situation.
exercises.
No, this is an ideal
Okay, we're
situation. We're
going
not
back. Okay,
talking about that.
I'm going back at the. I'm going at, okay. So
Exactly.
it's an ideal situation.
Yes.
So we had. So if there's so the. I love ensemble work. I love character development work with exercises and scenarios with text, without text. If there's mask work, I would be really happy if we're playing with mask work into creating roles. If there's PEM with creating roles, if it's more voice work with the creating roles. Like this is a dream. Like this is why I want 7 weeks.
Of course.
I want to move and breathe as a company.
So are you thinking that kind of quote unquote, let's call that training, just because there's not another word for it, is that training incorporated into you do an hour of that and then you get into the text, or is it like a week of doing that and then it's
No,
only
I think it should be integrated with creating the play,
okay.
with creating the piece, not separate. It's part of the work. That's one thing that drives me crazy is like, voice work is acting work.
Mm-hmm.
Movement training is acting work.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that was one of the biggest challenges I had working at the VCA was like getting the voice and movement teacher to understand that their classes are acting classes.
Yeah.
It's like, that has to go into the voice box. That has to go into the acting box. No, they're all acting classes. Are we training them all to be actors?
Yeah, exactly.
So it all has to be integrated into the work.
Yeah. Okay. So 6 p.m. go, ensemble check-in. Love that. Yes, incorporate that
6
as
p.m.
well.
go. That's a late start.
Okay, then you didn't give me a time. So what time do you want to start rehearsal?
This is a dream.
Yes, this is what this exercise is. You keep defaulting back to what exists. I want to talk about what should exist or what
Okay,
can exist.
dream would be start at 10, have a proper
AM.
lunch break in the middle,
Okay.
end at 5 or 6. Because
Okay.
then it gives me time to have the rest of the day to work on stuff. If I need to work on stuff, rest, and like if it's the late rehearsal. But I also but I also do like the working on stuff, have enough time in the morning to when I'm fresh to work on stuff. I don't know about the time,
And are you
alternating the times,
okay?
because I think maybe later, like early on in the rehearsal, start early.
Okay,
Later on in the rehearsal, start later because also we're really tired too. Even though
sure,
we do get enough rest, we're still fucking tired, and we still
sure.
so maybe like halfway through the rehearsal process, you
It
start
switches.
later, which will
Okay,
take you closer to the performance times anyway.
that makes sense. And are you doing this every single day? Or are you staggering rehearsals? One day on, one day off, time in between rehearsals, 7 weeks all the way through, 5 days a week,
I
6 days
like
a
I like
week?
5 days a week, having the weekends off.
Okay, good. All right. So, 10 a.m. Monday, come in. The director says, okay, there's an ensemble check in, and you're going to do some incorporated training with the play, with the text itself. Are you
hmm
working are you working chronologically through the play? Are you working certain scenes where they need to be worked? How are you?
I think we're in, I think we're, wait, have we read the play as a company
I don't know. You
yet?
haven't said. So there needs to be a full cast read at the beginning. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, after lunch on the first day.
Okay.
Like we have a play date where we just move around and get in our bodies and play with some of the forms and philosophies around the way that the director works, and then we have lunch, and uh then we have then we
Table
read
read.
the play, and that's certainly it doesn't necessarily need to be at the table, but it can be. It depends on the
Okay.
director's way. I
Okay.
don't care if it needs to be. It could be we can move around the space. We could do whatever shape of the room that the director prefers.
Sure.
But then we all get to read the play, and then we all get to talk about what we read and what we learned, and things that are there, and what we that have come up for us.
Hmm.
And then day two, we come back, and then we don't need to. I think we need to start with uh, where the character, where the world lives.
Mm,
You know, the world of the play.
mm.
Then I don't think that's chronological. I think that's where we as a company and you as the director feel the world of the play needs to be, like the atmosphere of like what are we walking into? What is the audience walking into?
Yeah. Okay. And so this goes on for hours. There's a break. There's a lunch in there. Um, how does how does rehearsal end? The day, not the rehearsal process when we go to tech and do the play, but like how does the day end?
Well, the day ends with company cool down.
Okay, what does that mean?
It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be, but it's kind of like a checkout. Like I, I just love that. Remember how we used to just do our basic check-ins and checkouts with the
Hmm.
number, and I think that works quite well.
Hmm.
I'm a two, I'm a one. You start
Yeah.
with I'm a one. Talk about, I'm a hungry two at the top, and then like rehearsal is great, and I'm still kind of a two, but I think I'm probably more of a 2.5. But I'm open, it's like checking with numbers so that everyone can get a gauge on where people are, because we can meet them at where they are as expected, as opposed to expecting them to be at the same level as we are energetically, emotionally.
Okay, that sounds like a lovely rehearsal. That does. It sounds like a lovely rehearsal that is respectful of, I'll call them the equity rules, but is
Hmm.
also but is also bending what is not all nitty gritty organizational things for the spiritual practice and artistic practice of all the artists involved. That sounds lovely. That sounds professional. It sounds like there's a lot of agency amongst everybody that's there. And it sounds like there's enough wiggle room to adjust to culture, people, ideas. I like it. It's great. Wonderful.
And I think that structure kind of gets, as everyone's knows the world, it gets more tighter. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like we start to get into putting the play together.
Hmm.
And then and also the desire for the actors wants to be inside of the play. The hardest thing for an actor is to have to come up with all of that work that I'm attempting to establish in rehearsal on their own. That's the hardest part of the job.
I was about to say that that's the other thing that I like about what you just described is that structure allows for the designer to be a part of that process from the beginning. There's not a, there's not
100% from the
there's
beginning.
not a thing where, okay, well, we'll get to the last week and the designer can come in the room and do their thing. No, this structure that you're describing means that designer could be there from the beginning and would be as contributing as we know this is what I want, that they're creating
Well,
their process.
we did that with Kool-Aid and Wine.
Yeah,
Our designer was present the whole time.
the whole time through every single part of the
Our
process.
designer was present more than the director was present.
Well,
Physically.
physically. Shut your mouth, exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary conforming individuals, Adam Marple was directing the play from Cairo on Zoom.
Yeah, it was delightful. It was delightful directing
And Jack
at
was in the room with me.
5 o'clock in the morning every day.
And then
Yeah.
you came and you were there and we
That's
put it
right.
together in person.
And then I whipped,
You know, that-
then I cracked the whip and I made sure that it was this tight, organized,
Ooh.
dictatorial process. Exactly.
You do like it tight, don't you? He loves it tight.
Moving on.
You don't like a tight show?
I love a tight show. I don't like a loose, sloppy show. Flapping in the breeze. No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wet and juicy.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
So wait, you didn't see left Fuerza Fuerza Puerta? What's
Fuerza
the one?
Bruta. Fuerza Bruta.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was tight though. That was tight and wet.
It was tight and wet. It was very well rehearsed. It would have to be. It would have to be very well rehearsed so that it could be sloppy in performance.
What about Slava Snow Show?
Also tightly rehearsed so that it can be sloppy in performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A voila.
Yes.
Well, okay. So I think I've answered your question.
Thank you.
So
I
now we need
appreciate
to go to provocations.
it. Yes, exactly.
Okay. So let's go to provocations, and then we can figure out what our audience needs to do next.
Yes. 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 Yes.
But let's first listen to some wonderful music.
Dry.
Shall I announce it, or shall you, Adam?
Please go for it. You love it so well.
Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary conforming individuals, you're listening to the stereo sounds of JDB, Jack David Burmeister.
Wow.
Do you have any provocations, Adam?
I do. I'm gonna do a solo podcast coming up soon. That's
I love your solo podcasts.
glad somebody does. I'm gonna be adapting a workshop that I gave about directors. So this provocation is for, it's not just for directors, but it's gonna be kind of aimed at directors. Imagine you go into a rehearsal room. You're an actor. you're the director that sets this rehearsal room up, and you go into this rehearsal room, and the room is full of furniture and props and costumes. Like everything, the stage managers have been asked to bring everything from the prop closet into the rehearsal space. And it's a giant playground. And as you work through the process, anything that you don't touch, the director takes out of the room, so that by a via negativa way, the entire space gets cleaner and cleaner and emptier until only the things that you have used perpetually and endowed with feeling keep existing in the space. So by the end of rehearsal, you've got everything there ready to go into tech. That is the process of John Doyle, who everybody knows from his very famous Sweeney Todd. He was the artistic director of Classic Stage Company. Or let's say a different rehearsal process where you come in and everybody's sitting in a circle with their heads facing each other, laying in a circle, and the lights are off, and everybody's thinking of the world, and they just get to kind of say out loud images and ideas or songs and things. Even the designers are laying down on the ground. And then lights come on before lunch, and when you come back, all of the ideas have been written on paper around the room. This is the process of Simon McBurney of Theatre Complicité. Or let's take another rehearsal process where you're the director and actors have come into the room, and the floor is just full of all kinds of research, things that you've been looking at, things that you've studied, things that you've pulled that may be absolutely pulled from the show itself, or you may be ideas that are tangentially involved. And then you look through that, you read through that, and then you do an hour of very intense training. This was the process of Anne Bogart with City Company. So my provocation to you, mostly young directors, but young actors as well, is how do you set up the room on the first day to create the culture of what the other 7 weeks, let's say, of the time spent in the room is going to be? What does that first
Wait,
day
as
say?
an actor, how do you set up the room?
No, what if you're an actor, how do you come into that room? What does that say to you as an actor it's
Oh,
going to be? And as a director, how would you set that up? What are you trying to say? So thinking about how the first day gives the culture for the rest of the process. That's my provocation and my question to you all.
okay. That's intense.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about how because I have a very particular way. I come in, I go to my little corner, and I make a little kibbutz. Kibbutz?
I mean, I
Kibbutz.
guess.
A little like
Yeah, a little
tent in the
hut.
area. That's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's my little like my little safe spot. And then from there, it's like my little satellite. I will leave that area and then go to whatever area the director has. But I'll go in early to like make my plot of land mine, and for people to know that that's my spot. But you know me, I like to go early. I like to go early. I like to go like hour early, 2 hours early. Just be in the space and breathe and
Yeah.
not be in that world.
Yeah.
To be any other world.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna say my provocation is, what is your rehearsal value? How do you value rehearsal? Do you are you a person that shows up late? Do
Mm.
you
And what does that
do you
say?
come prepared? And what? Uh-oh, I don't mean to trigger you. I'm sorry.
I got through this entire episode without being triggered. Till right now. Keep going. Sorry.
What is your rehearsal ethos, value, mores? What do you use rehearsal for? What is rehearsal to you as designer, as an actor, as a director?
Mm.
And this is I mean this seriously. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Do you really value rehearsal
Mm.
if you come an hour late? Do you really value rehearsal if you haven't looked at your script when everyone else is expecting you to have done some work on your script? Do you really value your rehearsal if you haven't looked at the script at all since being cast? I'm sorry, Adam. I don't mean to trigger you.
This is no longer a
I
safe
just want to let
space.
you know that you. I just want to let you know, Adam, you are not the only director on the planet that has felt this pain. There are many other directors that I know that have felt this pain.
It's no longer a safe space.
But I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
if this is a world that you want to be a part of, and I say protect your reputation with your life, and if your reputation is they're untrustworthy and you can't depend on them to show up,
Yeah.
you know. And what is your value of a dress rehearsal? Do you show up to your dress rehearsal? So that's my provocation, Adam.
That's a good provocation.
And how will we know if our listeners have done any of these things, Adam Marple?
Well, as always, they're going to go to speakpipe.com/theater of others. Speakpipe.com/theater of others, theater with an R-E, theater of others, all one word. You can leave a 90-second voice message there. We'll be happy to play it on air and
Yes.
hear your lovely voices. You can also go to podcast at Theater of Others. We are also on Instagram, Facebook, and our
We're
website.
in the gram, y'all.
Yeah. And only way they're going to hear these upcoming podcasts is if they do what, Budi?
Subscribe. You know, you got to
right.
subscribe if you're going to get our beautiful podcasts every single week. We come to you every single week, y'all. Week.
Week.
We come up
Week.
with a topic. We talk to you. We give you our opinion. Week. And if you want to hear us give you our opinion, you got to subscribe. And if you really like us, you can do what my Uber driver does. Give us 5 stars. You give me 5 star, I give you 5 star. 5 star, 5 star, 5 star. We all win. It's a winning game. And then if you really, really like us, you can leave a comment on how much you like us. And then we just get pushed up a little bit more in the algorithm that people are actually listening to us. It really does matter.
Yes.
It really does matter.
Yes. Indeed.
It's so good to see you, Adam.
It's
You
lovely
look
to
good.
see
You're
you.
so handsome today. Look how
thank
handsome
you.
you are today.
Well, it's very, very early. I'm surprised you're saying these things. I got in the shower
Well,
at 4:30 in the morning, so
you do 4:30 good. You do it good. Maybe you should get
okay.
up at 4:30 more often.
Hell no.
So I guess I'll see you next week.
Yeah,
And we'll be here for y'all next week, y'all
That's right.
listeners.
that's right.
And maybe I'll be in Jersey. Maybe I'll be in Oregon. I'm doing
Ooh.
an American tour, y'all. Maybe I'll be in Oregon or Michigan or DC. You never know. You never know.
Oh, that's
But
right.
until then,
We should actually. Well, okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
but wait. We need to remind them of what, Adam? There's some stuff we need to remind
Oh,
them before
there's
we even
so
begin.
many things to remind them of. We have so many announcements. Okay, so first off, the Audio Play Festival, we're accepting submissions right now for your 30-minute,
Yes.
20 to 30-minute audio play. You got to get them
Come on,
in
y'all.
soon. We need to hear your great idea, and that's all we need to have is just the idea. There's nothing needs to
Just a
necessarily
small
be
idea.
written. We are there to help produce this for you, help you with your casting, your directing,
Yes.
all design
Yes.
elements for getting your vision up and out and into the world. They will be premiering in the month of November this year. We really look
Yes.
forward to hearing your submissions. That's announcement number one. Announcement number two,
Yes.
work with others, an initiative started by Stephen Galtney. Writing can be a very lonely process. And so work with others is a way for us to try and bring this to a community. So it is not necessarily
Yes,
a
please.
workshop. It is just a
It's
space where
free.
writers, exactly, it's just a free space where writers can be writing in community and then
Together.
possibly share with each other. It's like
I love that. I'm joining.
yeah. Imagine you all just kind of meet at a Starbucks and you do your own thing and you say, hey, could you read this? Could you check this out for me? What do you think about that? And that's what Work with Others is going to be. That's going to be the first Friday, Saturday of each month. So that's coming up. Check out information in the show notes about that. And of course, next week is our first book club. It's our first submission.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's right. So we're doing Keith Johnstone's
Impro, baby.
Impro, baby. And we'd love to hear your questions or comments about that. What we talk
Do you know
about.
Goldie says my favorite word is improvisation? I was like, it's my favorite word.
Really?
And he told me that my favorite word is improvisation.
Okay. Well,
And why is the first book I choose impro? Called me.
I know. There you go. So those are coming. Those are all coming up. Don't want you to miss out on these
Don't
things.
forget Bali.
Yes, Bali. We haven't announced it necessarily. I mean, we have announced it, but it's not up in the world
The
yet.
19th
But
to the 29th. Come
It's
train
two-
with the Theater of Others crew.
That's right. That's
Adam
right.
Marple and
That's
Budi
right.
Miller and the Masters of Bali.
that's right. We're just teasing that information's not up yet, but be
Hello,
looking
Singapore.
forward. Hello, Singapore. Hello, Australia. Yeah, exactly.
Hello, Australia.
Yep.
Hello, London. Hello, America.
That's right. So those are all the lovely announcements we have coming up for Theater of Others in
Yeah.
2023.
Thank you, Adam. You're the best. And for the rest of y'all, we'll be seeing you next week. Bye!
Thanks for joining us this week on the Theater of Others podcast. Make sure to visit our website, theaterofothers.org, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. A special thank you to Purple Planet for the music you've heard. The Theater of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purposes of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task and requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? Be sure to tune in next week for our next journey.